Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. 8:08 exactly. News and views on Salam Media. And at this point, we do invite you to become a part of the conversation. We are joined by Inayet Wadee, who is a presenter here at Salam Media. My esteemed colleague, always wonderful talking with him. And we're looking at the 5th Global Convention of Solidarity with Palestine, which kicked off in Johannesburg, marking the 10th anniversary of the passing of Nelson Mandela. And of course, this is linked directly to the issue around the support of the Palestinian people. Assalamu alaikum to you, Inayet. Welcome to the program.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to you, Julie. Assalamu alaikum to all the listeners, and wonderful connecting with you on this Monday morning.
And I presume the reason we don't have you on video is because you are at the convention. Am I correct?
In fact, I'm actually driving to the convention today, being the second day, Julie, starting at 9 a.m. again this morning. So this is the reason why we're doing it telephonically as opposed to the StreamYard link that we normally link up with. But I must say, Julie, that yesterday was a very, very interesting day, a very inspiring day as well. But also at the same time, looking at what had happened yesterday, there were a whole range of speakers from right across the entire world at the convention. But together with that, I was actually amazed at the international interest in this convention in itself. There were guests from right across the world, from the United States of America, the Arab world, Latin America, and people spoke in all the different languages. There was this whole translating mechanism that was there as well. And I must say, it was an eye-opener in more ways than one. And obviously the objective, and I heard you saying, we are winding down because we are heading towards the end of the year. But one aspect that we need to be relentless, we can't stop, we can't wind down, is Palestine for the reasons that you mentioned, the carnage, the brutality, the savagery that still continues. And this needs to gain momentum. And this was a very, very strong message. It was a very, very powerful message that came through from all the delegates. And it was actually summed up very well by Dudu Masango, who was the program director, and she made this passionate plea to Nelson Mandela, Nelson Mandela's grandson, Chief Mandla Mandela, telling him that, it's time for action. He says, we've just been talking, and we need to walk the talk now, Julie.
As I was looking at the program of the convention and knowing that you were covering it for us on behalf of Salam Media, I'm also looking at pictures of a capacity crowd from, as you've indicated, right across the board, all colors and creeds, alhamdulillah, lots of rabbis as well present, a very orthodox looking, ultra-orthodox looking rabbis, but donning the Palestinian scarves in solidarity with what is going down, the genocide, the ethnic cleansing, the brutality that is happening in Palestine. And the thought that crossed my mind is, it seems as if the more support that is being drummed up for the cause of the Palestinian people, the more relentless and ruthless the occupiers are becoming to the Palestinian people. And you can't even begin to comprehend why they are wiping out the children. The only thing that comes to my mind is that they want to annihilate an entire generation of Palestinians so that there won't be any repercussions in 10 or 20 years' time on the occupiers, the illegal occupiers, if they are still around. And that's the only thing that crosses my mind regarding the cruelty and the scale of which these attacks are gaining momentum. And I think it has never been seen in the history. Never has this been witnessed in the history of the world.
Well, Julie, I think neither you nor I would have actually imagined, and I think you and I have been in broadcasting for a long time, and we've covered a lot of events over the years, and for me particularly since 9/11, where we've covered every major event. Now, I personally haven't seen the scale of brutality, the scale of oppression, the scale of aggression, like we are seeing and what we are witnessing as far as Gaza is concerned. Now, yesterday, I think for me the most touching moment was where we had testimonies from people who were on the receiving end of this brutality. There was a young Palestinian in a wheelchair, and he spoke so passionately, and he spoke in Arabic, and it was translated, but he warmed the hearts of the audience, just telling his side of the story in terms of what had happened to him. There was a couple that were there. They spoke about their child who was killed, and brutally in the most savage manner, to the extent where a cloth was doused with petrol and put into his mouth, and this child was actually burned. Now, this is the scale of savagery that we see coming out of the Zionist entity. And I think just to those two speakers alone, just those testimonies from the two people who firsthand obviously have been victims of this genocide that is unfolding, speaks volumes. And this is the reason why Chief Mandla Mandela has been so passionate about this cause. Together with that, the South African experience was shared. We had Deputy Minister Obed Papela, who spoke about South Africa. And again, when one looks at South Africa, it's a walk in a park. It's actually a picnic, because I don't think we've seen the level of brutality being unleashed during the apartheid. We know that there were a number of issues with regard to apartheid, but I'll tell you what, this is taken to another level, Julie, and this is what the audience had actually come to terms with, and this is what the call was, and the call was very, very strong. And even after the speeches, there were a whole host of speakers from all over the world. But even after that, when there were the breakaway sessions, and there were 3 sessions, one was mobilize civic society and to continue with the struggle. The second was taking a look at international law, taking a look at legal options as far as crimes against humanity. And then I set into the whole media breakaway session. And again, the message was to mobilize, to globalize the effort. And this is what we're actually hoping for. In fact, I think today's session, we will get a lot of feedback that came away from the breakaway sessions. And then there's going to be a resolution that is going to be passed ahead of the march, a memorandum that will be prepared. And you mentioned the march that is taking place to the Union Building. And this is a memorandum that is going to be handed over to the President, Cyril Ramaphosa, Julie.
Okay, let's go for our first ad break of the morning. We'll come back and talk some more. I think there's still lots more that we'd like you to unpack regarding the first day of the convention, inshallah.
The Turkey-Syria earthquake is among the deadliest earthquakes of the last century. Thousands have lost their lives, and large areas and cities and towns in southern Turkey and northern Syria have turned to rubble, leaving huge numbers of residents with very little or nothing at all. Al-Imdad Foundation's emergency relief team is on the ground providing life-saving aid. The people of Turkey and Syria desperately need your support. Donate online at alimdad.com or call 0861 786 243 for more information.
The kitchen, the heart of the home, where memories are made and celebrated. Our go-to place for those freshly stacked pancakes early in the morning, or for that late-night snack munchies. We are in there together, cooking, eating, and celebrating life together. Let's keep the kitchen a place that is shared by everyone, where we build stronger bonds and grow together. Sunfoil, Now We Cooking. Visit nowwecooking.co.za for recipes that everyone can help make.
Conveniently located along the banks of the Crocodile River bordering the Kruger National Park. As a guest at Buckler's Africa Lodge, one can enjoy an amazing sunrise or sunset on our spacious deck area while you catch a glimpse of some wildlife sightings along the Crocodile River. The sounds of the African savannah will greet you whilst you enjoy your morning coffee. Buckler's Africa Lodge, by Tingana Collection. Buckler's Africa Lodge is ideally situated only 6 kilometers from the Crocodile Bridge Gate in the Kruger National Park. Catering for all travelers with variety, we have 4 types of the finest rooms: superior rooms, deluxe suites, and 2-bedroomed family units. Each room is equipped with the finest amenities to make your stay unforgettable. Guests can choose between the self-catering option or book their accommodation with breakfast and dinner included. Buckler's Africa Lodge is your ideal location for the ultimate Kruger getaway experience. We specialize in exhilarating and educational game drives in Kruger, tailor-made to suit your family. Inquire about our various accommodation offerings and other activities. Visit www.tingana.co.za for more information. Buckler's Africa Lodge by Tingana Collection. Experience the pulse of Africa with us.
Sponsor an orphan, and you'll help support a vulnerable child to have the education they've always dreamed of, so they can build a brighter future. You'll be feeding a hungry stomach and a hungry mind with knowledge that will last them a lifetime. That's the power of an education. Sponsor an orphan now with Islamic Relief.
There's no smell that takes me back to the comfort of my childhood than the smell of black seed oil being applied by my nanny. Now I'm using Tib black seed in my own home to soothe sniffles and coughs, to help with digestion and immunity, and of course, as part of my beauty routine. After all these years, I've come to appreciate the wisdom in finding comfort and shifa in trusted treatments like Tib black seed. You can find Tib black seed at all leading pharmacies or find out more at blackseed.co.za.
Rejuvenating media day by day. This is Salam Media.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back. It is exactly 8:21 a.m. News and views on Salam Media. And of course, I'm talking with my colleague Inayet Wadee. He attended the opening of the Global Convention of Solidarity with Palestine. It's the 5th Global Convention. He attended yesterday. He's on his way there again today. And of course, there were amazing guests from all over the world, in obviously high political positions. I see one of the pictures that's flashing across the screen here, Inayet, is the ambassador to South Africa, the ambassador of Palestine, and a lot of other, big names were at the convention as well. Did you manage to get to interact with some of them?
Well, Julie, yes, we did. In fact, I interacted a fair amount with Dr. Khalid Kajubi, who is the Hamas representative to Tehran. I interacted with a Kenyan politician that was there, a member of parliament as well. There was a former Indian member of parliament as well, was present. He actually addressed the audience, and his message was actually very, very clear that he doesn't speak on behalf of the Indian government, because we know what the current Indian government position is with regard to Palestine and Israel. And he went back into some history in terms of how India had actually supported the Palestinian cause. He quoted Mahatma Gandhi, he quoted Jawaharlal Nehru as well. We had a Turkish member of parliament that was there. He spoke in the Turkish language. There were people, in fact, there was someone out of Venezuela, in fact, formerly from Chile. Latin America was very well represented in the media breakaway session. There was somebody from Spain who was also present there as well. So you just look at the audience and right across the entire world, but also it just tells you that, there is this great divide in the support of the people of Palestine, where we hear about the global north and the global south. And we see Latin America featuring very, very prominently in its support for the people of Palestine, together with South Africa. In fact, Chief Mandla Mandela spoke about the SADC region, and he spoke about how SADC had basically supported the ANC during our struggle against apartheid as well. And there was a call to the Arab world. Now, let us also, you mentioned the ambassador of Palestine to South Africa. Hanan Jarrah, who was there as well. But let us also remember that they were aligned to the Palestinian Authority, and this is where the call for unity had also come, because Hamas obviously not recognized as the political bureau of Hamas not being recognized. So there was this call for unity, and in my interaction with some of them, in fact, I interacted with an imam out of Syria as well, and he spoke about unity, united in our diversity, united in purpose for the sake of Palestine. So these were the levels of interaction that we had, and I'm sure there will be a lot more this morning when the Salam Media gets here as well. We will be conducting a lot more interviews this morning, hopefully, and we will actually bring a lot more coming out of the conference today. Now, today is going to be a day where we reflect on what had happened yesterday, but I think it's going to be decision time, and this is going to be absolutely important. This is critical in terms of finding a way forward. Also, at the same time, a very, very strong and a very powerful message that came through to us here in South Africa, where we need to be united in our efforts. We know civil society, we know the solidarity organizations, all are passionate about the Palestinian cause. The key question here is, how do we come together to maximize and to make maximum impact? The same would go from a media perspective as well, where a lot was discussed with regard to the experience of media coverage of the Palestinian issue. And this is where we as Salam Media provided our input. In fact, we've been non-stop in our coverage, and we shared some of those experiences as independent media, but also looking at some of the other issues that have been playing out in terms of bypassing the restrictions, the ban on pro-Palestinian content, particularly on social media platforms. How do you overcome that? Also looking at the possibilities of these companies that put social media in terms of suing or forcing them to actually respond. Also looking at other mechanisms as to why can't we have our own platforms rather than relying on the social media platforms that most of us are using right now, Julie.
Okay, there's some very important issues that we also have to raise. Was the issue around the Arab neighbors of Palestine, the fact that they've been so silent and non-supportive of the current situation in Palestine, has that been raised? And I, of course, we do understand politics, geopolitics. I mean, it's easier said than done. We are armchair warriors, and we sit and say, oh, but Saudi should have done this, or Yemen should have done that, or where's Iran, where's Iraq, etc., etc., etc. But we do know that if any one of them do step in, it could ignite into a full-scale war in the region. We are cognizant of that. But do you believe that pressure could be asserted in a different form? And what do you believe that pressure should look like? Do they kind of cut ties with Israel, or is Israel way too powerful with America's backing behind them?
Well, Mandela Mandela made that very, very clear, and he came out very, very strongly on this point on the Arabs in particular, and their inaction. And he spoke about, he says, with the Arab nations, the summits, the OIC, the Arab League summits as well. It's basically been all talk, and they're doing absolutely nothing. Now, militarily, they obviously would be very hesitant, because it could, as you mentioned, this could result in a full-scale, full-blown war in the entire Middle East. But there's a lot of leverage that the Arab countries can use, and this is a message also that came out very, very strongly. If you look at just the economic ties between the Arab world, between even Turkey and Israel, when one looks at Israel and its energy requirements, its oil needs, 60% of its oil coming from two Muslim countries, Uzbekistan and in Kazakhstan. Now, they're not even prepared to use that as leverage, because at this point in time, you'll find that, the Israeli economy is suffering as a result of this aggression, as a result against this attack on Gaza and also on the other occupied Palestinian territories. Now, all of this could be used as leverage. But the question is, they're not using it. And why they're not using it? There is so much disagreement amongst them. We've seen the Arab Summit that had taken place 2 or 3 weeks ago, Julie. And there again, this was one of the points that was raised, and just their pure hesitancy. But again, Julie, it's got to do with the regional political dynamics that are playing out in the Arab world. Let us remember that this attack is against Hamas. And while the world is focused on the military wing of Hamas, while the world is focused on Al-Qassam brigades and the Islamic Jihad, they're forgetting that the political bureau of Hamas has a role to play. They've got legitimacy in the eyes of most Palestinians in both the West Bank and also in Gaza as well. And this is the failure of the Arab world to recognize Hamas and the political bureau as the legitimate government of the people of Palestine. And this is because they look at it, purely in terms of their own safety, in terms of their securing their own power bases. Let us go back and take a step back at the Arab Spring, where at the Arab Spring, we could see the rise of the Ikhwan and the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood, when one looks at Hamas, a lot of them have actually emanated from the Muslim Brotherhood. And after the Arab Spring, there was this effort, and they neutralized the Muslim Brotherhood in most of these Arab and these Gulf countries as well. So again, these are some of the dynamics that are playing out, and this is the reason why you would see the hesitancy as well. So they're looking at it purely, from a political point of view, the political discourse in the Middle East in terms of their own power base, and also in terms of legitimacy in the eyes of their people as well. So this is where the problem comes in, and the reason why there is this hesitancy. So it's a combination of political ambition and also the economic benefit in their relationship with Israel.
Okay, lots more questions. We'll try not to delay you too much, but we do need some very important information from this convention. I'm wondering about the Egyptian situation. Did this discussion come up at all where 2-3 weeks ago the genocidal occupiers were suggesting that Palestinians move into the Sinai desert? They'll put up a tent city for them. They'll be well taken care of medically and otherwise. And we do know that what that would have meant is once the Palestinians move into the Sinai, there'd be absolutely no coming back into Palestine or into Gaza. The Palestinians have resisted that move. They've resisted that calling. And I think that's one of the reasons why the bombardment has become that much more severe. There was also the talk around Egypt taking X amount, 500,000 or more Palestinians to settle down in Egypt at a cost of a couple of $2 billion. Egypt has resisted that offer as well. How do you think this will play out? Was this raised at the convention at all?
Not to my knowledge. Yesterday it wasn't raised, but last week, Julie, at the International Solidarity Day with the people of Palestine, that was represented by the ambassadors of the Arab world, and I had an interview with the Lebanese ambassador to South Africa, who's also the representative of the broader Arab world, the ambassadors of the broader Arab world. And this was an issue that I had raised with him. And what he mentioned is the Arab world is actually hesitant, very, very hesitant to absorb any more Palestinian refugees being kicked out of Palestine. He says already they are coping with Palestinians in the diaspora after the Nakba, and right across the world, whether you're looking at Egypt, Lebanon, you're looking at Jordan, and some of the other countries around. So the Arab world is not prepared to actually absorb this, and this is a very, very sticky point. But again, the Palestinians are adamant, and the Palestinians says, we'll rather die rather than be kicked out. And we know the broader plan was to ethnic cleanse Gaza, to flatten Gaza, and to kick each and every Palestinian out and send him to Egypt. Egypt is not prepared to do that. Egypt is not prepared to absorb them as well. So I don't think this is even going to be a negotiating point at any time, Julie. But I think what we'll do, what we're witnessing now is trying to with a forced displacement, and we've seen this war that is extended now from the north to the south of Gaza as well. And we just got to see now what plays out in the next few days. The key issue here is, America, Britain, We've heard today surveillance being provided by British as well. They're getting actively involved in this war. America, the 7 days that the temporary truce had lasted, had given them enough opportunity to replenish a lot of bombs, and this time around they're getting more lethal. Those bunker buster bombs, all of that now coming through as well. But it's going to be a wait and see. Again, the United Nations impotent at this point in time. A lot of pressure will have to be put onto governments like the United States of America. And on the other hand, you've got countries like Qatar that are trying to secure, some sort of negotiation as well. But, Julie, there's just so much playing out right now. One needs to make a lot of sense of what is happening, and we're going to monitor the thing on a day-by-day basis.
Okay, I know that you're almost at your destination. I'm going to ask you two more very quick questions. And I also have my next guest standing by, and that, of course, is Mametlwe Sibai. As I've indicated earlier on, there was a Jewish presence there as well by rabbis attending. What was, was there any comment from them at all? What is the South African Jewish lobby perhaps saying? We do know that there are two sides to that story as well. The SAJBD are very pro-Israel, but there's a lot of Jewish people who are saying, not in my name, stop the killings, it's not in my name. And they are all for the genocide to stop in Palestine, question number one. And then also we need to understand the feeling about these ongoing protests, the marches, the boycotts in South Africa and all around the world. Are we getting a sense that it's making a difference? It's creating the awareness, if nothing else, conscientizing people that this is a genocide happening in Palestine?
Julie, I spoke briefly. I had a short interview with the Reverend David Weiss from Naturai Karta. Now, he's someone we've spoken to before as well, and this was an opportunity to actually meet them in person. And their message is very, very clear that Israel doesn't have any right or any claim to the land of Palestine. He says there is no such a thing as a Jewish homeland for Israel in occupied Palestine. And he came with a whole album full of pictures to prove this point. And he actually showed us, and these things go back. And he even made reference, from a religious perspective as well, and also in terms of their rulings with regard to Palestine and its claims. So they are very, very clear. And so he says the state of Israel should not be existing in occupied Palestine. That was the first thing. As far as the South African Jews are concerned, we had people like Ronnie Kessel that was there. We had Roshan Dadu. We had a number of people from the South African Jewish community that were represented there as well. And they've made it very, very clear that, they're looking at it purely from a human rights perspective as well, and also in terms of the atrocities that are committed. So they are South African Jews for Palestine. Their position has been very, very clear as well. Just as far as the South African Jewish Board of Deputies, obviously you're going to get this because we've seen their reaction to even South Africa, the vote that was taken in Parliament to close the Israeli embassy. They are continuing. Their lobby groups are quite strong. I believe they are talking to trade unions to try and see how they can overcome some of the problems that they are faced with, the boycotts, all of that that is taking place, or that is happening right now. So, they will continue because they remember that they are a very, very powerful lobby group right across the entire world. And again, coming to the marches and all the protest action, that's going to continue. Yesterday, we've seen a huge protest march that has taken place at the Zoo Lake. And this will continue. In fact, hopefully tomorrow, we'll see one of the biggest in South Africa, in Pretoria in particular. There are many, many more campaigns. I'm going to be emceeing an event called to Gaza on Wednesday evening. And also on Friday, there's a little town, Bella Bella, that will be having a march. So in terms of conscientizing, in terms of creating that awareness is here in this country. The key issue here is they require a lot more information. They require a lot more education. We need to, and that was a call that was made yesterday as well, we need to also move away from just pure marches and sloganization and all of that, and more concrete action is necessary, Julie. And I think that is a message that is starting to echo louder and louder, that, action over and above. Protests are good. Yes, it creates awareness, it creates a vibe, it does everything. But the day, there's going to be meaningful action, so this carnage can actually stop. So that the hundreds and the thousands that have been killed, I think that really is a priority at this point in time.
Inshallah, we will hook up again with you tomorrow for you to give us a wrap up on today's proceedings. And I also want you to tell me what you believe, needs to be more concrete from the part of us as South Africans, and I guess protest actions all around the world. It's fine to go out in your droves onto the streets, but you are absolutely correct. More needs to be done. It needs to be more impactful so that governments can start taking notice, and they need to start putting pressure on these murderous, genocidal, illegal occupiers in Palestine. The Israelis, of course, is whom I'm referring to. And I undoubtedly will be ghosted for these remarks of mine, but that's well and good. I say it like it is. That's where we're going to leave it in Inayet Wadee. We'll talk with you again tomorrow morning. As I've indicated, our next guest is on standby. Thank you indeed for such a comprehensive feedback session regarding the 5th Global Convention of Solidarity with Palestine, which started yesterday. Go well, keep safe, and salaam alaikum to you.
Always a pleasure. Jazakallah khairan, Julie. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
The time is exactly 8:40. News and views on Salam Media. We're going for a quick ad break, and then we will be joined by Mametlwe Sibai, who is going to talk to us about, I guess it's the whole issue around the South African government. We're not living up to our promise regarding the evacuation of South Africans from Gaza.